October 2025 sees the release of Dwayne Johnson's The Smashing Machine, the anticipated biopic of UFC and Pride legend Mark Kerr, joining the pantheon of actors trying to translate MMA for the silver screen. Today, we look at the notable MMA pictures to get the Hollywood treatment, from A-listers trying to revive their career to some of the sport's biggest stars flexing their acting chops. Welcome to the INC, and these are 5 of the best and worst MMA movies. Once one of Hollywood's most popular actresses, Halle Berry had fallen on hard times by the late 2010s. So she borrowed from the Gable Steveson playbook and turned to MMA as a last resort. In 2019's Bruised, Berry plays a former MMA fighter tasked with raising her estranged son, all while preparing for her comeback fight against unbeaten champion Lady Killer Chavez, played by UFC champion Valentina Shevchenko. The film marked Berry's directorial debut and the first of a multi-picture deal with Netflix, with the actress being a noted fan of the sport and attending jiu-jitsu classes since 2018. The film was made in cooperation with the all-female promotion Invicta, which later served as the setting for the climactic fight between Berry and Chavez. The Invicta connections allowed several notable names to make cameo appearances in the film, including commentator Julie Kedzie, Gabby Garcia, and Israel Adesanya.
You used to be Jackie Justice, right?
Still am.
Oh yeah. We'll see.
Bruised was met with mixed reviews upon release, with Berry's performance and the film's fight sequences coming in for praise, but criticism for its cliched script and inconsistent tone. The feedback, however, was enough for the UFC to associate itself with it, with Berry appearing as a guest of honor at several events to promote the film, including presenting Rose Namajunas with her strawweight title at UFC 268. The film's biggest controversy, however, was outside the cage, when former UFC fighter Kat Zingano filed a lawsuit claiming Berry had breached a contract to cast her in the film. The former title challenger suggested Berry advised her to turn down fights for insurance reasons, which ultimately led to her release in 2019, after which Berry decided not to cast the fighter in the film. Zingano eventually resurfaced in Bellator, amassing a 4-fight winning streak before a first-round loss to Chris Cyborg at Bellator 300, by which point the suit had been quietly dropped. The late 2000s saw Hollywood try to turn every sport into a big-budget comedy, so it's no surprise that MMA got the same treatment courtesy of Kevin James. In 2012's Here Comes the Boom, James plays a former college wrestler turned school teacher who moonlights as a fighter to raise money for his school's music program, which, based on the current rate of MMA fighter pay, should take him about 20 years. The film was notable for its collaboration with the UFC, the first time the company had worked with a major Hollywood project since Tank Abbott's Friends appearance in the mid-90s. The UFC allowed several of its stars to make cameo appearances in the film, with Jason Mayhem Miller and Mark Munoz joining a star-studded cast including Henry Winkler and Selma Hayek.
You're in charge of the stool.
We didn't have a stool last fight?
I didn't make it out of the first round last fight.
I'm a little confused about my job description. I'm a music teacher. I don't know the rules.
I can't do this.
The Hollywood names, however, would play second fiddle to Bas Rutten. The former UFC champion was inspiredly cast in the film as James's coach, with many seeing the fighter's performance as one of the movie's key highlights. Rutten and James had been friends for several years prior to the film's release, with the actor appearing in Rutten's corner for his final MMA fight in 2006. Despite mixed reviews, Here Comes the Boom proved a box office success, making double its $42 million budget, with one reviewer describing it as a time-worn, if ultimately harmless, comedy. Most, however, decried the film as unrealistic, in particular the idea of a portly 47-year-old James ever fighting in the UFC. Clearly, they haven't seen the heavyweight division in 2025. The Hollywood experience seemingly went to some fighters' heads. During promotion of the film, Jason Mayhem Miller made several interview appearances as his character Lucky Patrick, described by Miller as a loudmouth Irishman as unpredictable outside the cage as he was inside of it, something Ariel Helwani found out to his cost during an episode of the MMA Hour.
That's it? You're gonna do this?
Yeah, you fucking saw what I'm doing.
Ma'am, this is not
hey,
Andy Kaufman and...
Stop calling me man!
Okay.
Most films on this list are blessed with a high budget, big-name stars, or creative choreography. 2016's Fight Valley has none of these. The film tells the story of Windsor, a 22-year-old who traces the death of her sister to an underground MMA ring in New Jersey, leading to her training as a fighter to infiltrate the group and exact revenge. The film was directed by Rob Hawke, a former MTV cinematographer in one of his first major theatrical releases. Hawke's previous work had leaned heavily into feminist themes and gained attention from the MMA fans for the huge number of female fighters featured in the cast, including the Ronda Rousey trinity of Chris Cyborg, Holly Holm, and Miesha Tate in a prominent speaking role. And when I say prominent, I unfortunately mean prominent.
You know, you're lucky I don't kick your ass right here. Super fucking disappointed in you. You're one of my best damn fighters. You're about to pay up right now.
While comparing a B-movie to a Hollywood release is harsh, Fight Valley fails to match its already low standards. A mix of stilted performances, poor pacing, and plot points brought up and dropped with alarming regularity. Even the film's fight choreography proved off given the huge number of professional athletes involved in its production. Although eagle-eyed viewers will recognize a sequence between Holm and Tate that mirrors the two's title match from UFC 196. Fight Valley was granted a limited theatrical release in July of that year, and immediately maligned by film critics, with one describing it as the Room of combat sports movies. It should be noted IMDb claims the film's budget was $24 million, a figure I suspect, and quite frankly hope, is incorrect. Those involved with Fight Valley have looked to distance themselves from the project. A planned sequel starring Cyborg and Tito Ortiz was quietly shelved, while Hawke and main star Susie Selleck have stayed out of the Hollywood bubble since its release. Thankfully, so has Tate.
That's why it's your biggest mistake. Because you're a fucking rookie. And any fighter with any experience is gonna pick you apart like the amateur you are.
The Ultimate Fighter was integral to introducing a new generation of fans to MMA, so it was no surprise when Hollywood tried cashing in on the sport's popularity. Released in the spring of 2008, Never Back Down centers on a troubled teen who arrives at a new high school to discover an underground fight club, eventually taking up the sport to avenge a bully and impress his love interest played by future Aquaman star Amber Heard. As the first mainstream film since the Tough boom, Never Back Down makes a conscious effort to introduce viewers to the intricacies of the new sport, even if it borrowed every sports movie cliché in order to do so, mixing Rocky and the Karate Kid with a splash of affliction for an enjoyable, if at times by-the-numbers romp. While nowhere near the experience level of Fight Valley, several members of the cast had long connections with MMA. Sean Ferris, who played lead protagonist Jake, was a longtime fan of the sport who gained nearly 20 pounds of muscle in preparation for the film, with his performance positively received by MMA legends Frank Shamrock and Bas Rutten, as did his counterpart Cam Gijande, a Krav Maga black belt who described training for the film as the toughest experience of his career. Although largely derided by critics, Never Back Down earned a cult following among teen audiences, with some citing it as a key factor in kickstarting their own interest in MMA. The film's commercial success led to 3 straight-to-DVD sequels, including cameo appearances from UFC champions Michael Bisping and Josh Barnett. MMA connections followed the film's cast in the years after, when Amber Heard's best friend Raquel Pennington testified on her behalf as part of her legal battle with husband Johnny Depp, forcing the UFC fighter of the same name to turn to social media when she was questioned about her involvement in the trial. MMA fans let themselves down sometimes. If one MMA film can claim to be a masterpiece, it's the 2011 Tom Hardy vehicle, Warrior. Directed by longtime fan Gavin O'Connor, Warrior stars Hardy and Joel Edgerton as estranged brothers whose lives come to a head after entering a $1 million MMA tournament. O'Connor had been no stranger to the sports movie genre, having previously worked on the hockey biopic Miracle and serving as an executive producer for the original Smashing Machine documentary in 2002. Hardy cited the film as the key reason in establishing his own passion for the sport. The actor first started training jiu-jitsu in preparation for the role and has since gone on to become a black belt, winning several regional-level tournaments. While most of the films on this list were centered around its set pieces, Warrior turned its focus on the drama outside the cage, with critics praising the film as a touching family drama, along with the character development of Hardy and Edgerton. The film's action sequences came in for similar acclaim, with Warrior following its peers in the large number of fighters making cameo appearances, including Anthony Rumble Johnson, Nate Marquardt, and pro wrestling legend Kurt Angle, who appears as a Fedor Emelianenko avatar in the film's climax. While well received by critics, Warrior failed to find an audience at the box office, falling short of making back its $25 million budget. It didn't stop the Rocky of MMA, however, from getting its flowers come award season, with Nick Nolte's performance as Hardy's alcoholic father earning him a Best Supporting Actor nomination at the Academy Awards. So, there's hope for Dwayne Johnson after all. But that's our opinion. What about yourselves? Are there any MMA films that should have made our list? Please like, share, and subscribe. Post your feedback in the comments, and donate to our Patreon page for hours of exclusive content. This is the INC. Thank you for watching.